Hey, so my Sunday squatch and ramble. I was up in an area which I'm calling Site 4 up on the mountain behind my place. But the weird thing is, filmed it all out. There was a lot of snow up there way early this year. But by the time I got to the top of it and went through this just massive timber all over the place. And I'll show you that video along with another area that has got timber, but one makes contextual sense and one doesn't. It wasn't until after I was filming that I realized, oh, I'm not alone. And it's not a Sasquatch. What it actually was a sow grizzly with 2 cubs. So, you know, as much as we like to think nature's on our side, nature's wild. So make sure, A, you carry bear mace. B, people know where you are if you're going up by yourself. And C, you can carry a gun, especially at this time of year. It's just starting to be hunting season. So I'm checking out the other part of the valley, the west side of our valley in the Okanagan. And I know I've posted some videos about fire pits. And I know you guys, when you look at it, you'll go, well, that's just a fire pit. I get that. But, like I said, if you get a straight edge, cut straight down into the pit, and looked at its stratus, you'll see there's no coal there. Any coals or fire evidence whatsoever. And I don't know if they're mimicking us. I don't know. I remember, I just saw Rio's video, which was stellar. It's a little scary too when he's up the top of the mountain there at 7,000 or 8,000 feet and he's getting surrounded there, and you're hearing these things just, squatches just bark and howl and throw through things. Great job on your isolation, Rio. If you ever want someone to stay up there at nighttime with you, give me a call. But anyways, I don't know, when you're looking for squatches, the problem is society just has got way too much cultural influence in regards to what squatches are. And I mentioned to you guys in my last video, I mean, my education is understanding system theory. And the thing about system theory, I'll give you an idea of the valley I live in there, is understanding that all systems have a belief structure to them that's usually culturally accepted. And I have a real problem with the woo factor. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm very spiritual myself. And none of you know me, not really know what I've done in my life, but I've done a lot with the supernatural. Unfortunately, I've done a lot with spiritual healers, religious healers, and I notice a lot of people like citing these tests or these certainty tests of how they prove psychic ability and the paranormal. And the bottom line is, look, I'm not trying to rain on your parade. None of that's true. Most of the stuff you guys are been quoting, that stuff is from research from the 50s and 60s when science looked at it and they couldn't figure out how people were levitating things and how people were bending things or seeming to get information back to other people in different rooms. And the problem was the scientists were looking at it as scientists, and they weren't looking at it as an illusionist would, such as myself, or a magician, or a mentalist. So once they brought those people into the picture, the problem was they couldn't reproduce any of those so-called factual evidence in regards to psychic ability. I train a lot of animals, I mean dogs especially, and the thing about dogs, I don't know if you've ever noticed how people talk to dogs as if they're like little kids. Oh, hello, who's a little baby? And the reason why we do that psychologically is that when we look into a dog's eyes, it activates the same part of our brain of when we were looking up at our parents' place, our parents' faces. And again, as mentioned, I deal a lot with the brain. And most of us aren't aware that we have 3 parts Three brains in one brain. Primal, emotional, and cognitive. And the problem dealing with squatches, especially, it's not just squatches, it's about anything we don't have contextual understanding what it's about. Our brain goes into... Sorry, I'm just noticing this area I'm just about walking into. It kind of says, oh, this is interesting. The problem with that is our brain is wired to do certain things. Now, some of the stuff you know, like for instance, you know that your brain is wired to look and see faces. That's your primal part of your brain. When you're looking through the bush, you want to see faces. I'm not criticizing anyone who has Sasquatch pictures that you can't quite make out online. But it's important to be cautious in regards to putting spiritual concepts, because your brain's already moving that direction. And especially when you're getting your primal part of your brain, where your primal emotions kick in, it becomes very spiritualized. Everybody who's watching this right now, if you go to any native cultural center and ask them about any animal that they have, you would see that they have superpowers in their tradition, super abilities, the capacity, especially crows, ravens in Pacific Northwest, have almost a spirit-like quality to them. And you have to remember, for thousands and thousands of years, we didn't have this thing called science. Matter of fact, ladies, I got some terrible news for you. 200 years ago, we didn't even know that you had a thing called an egg, because it was all masculinely man-centered, because we didn't have science to be able to see an egg. The perception at the time was you were an incubator for us guys, and that's why remember, it was a male-dominated world that we came out of. High-end structured system, meaning top, heavy, down. One person has all the power. And in that, there's some interesting stuff around here. Sorry. In that, I just want to caution you guys about the woo factor. I'm going to make a prediction. Okay? You guys can keep all of your beliefs you want. Trust me, I'm very spiritual. I just want to make sure I'm not watching somebody con somebody. And I've dealt with that way too much in what I do. From evangelists, to psychics, to mysticists, to a variety of other styles of people who claim certain things. But the bottom line is, I can reproduce almost everyone, well, not everyone, all of them. From making it look like, holy smokes, he can move things. He can levitate things. He can make a person's leg longer. He can read my mind as a body language trained person. And I'm looking at people. Your body, because it's a primal part of your brain, is giving tons of information away without you even knowing it. And the one thing I really can't stand is when I'm watching Bigfoot documentaries, the ones that are on TV, and they're showing somebody who's had an experience. And the person says, I was back in the middle of the bush and blah, 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 whatever the incident is. And then they cut to a reenactment. Because if you cut to the reenactment, I can't see your body language. What I'm looking for right now is, this is something to keep in mind, when you're talking to somebody who claims they've had a sighting, check to see if their eyes go to the left. Now, this isn't in stone. When you're doing body language, you're looking for what's called clusters, but if a person's eyes go to the left, straight left, I would point, but I have a Tim Hortons coffee. That means I'm Canadian. Or they go up to your left, or down to your left. That means your brain is drawing from experiential experiences. If the person's talking to you about an experience and it's going to the right, the eyes, or upper right especially, that's fabrication. So if they're with somebody and they were trying to recall what the person had said, because they were there saying, I talked to a guy, their eyes should go, I talked to a guy and he said that. That means that's more likely the guy's telling you the truth. But because the brain is wired, and I mean, we are not in control of our lives as much as we think we have been. That was a weird sound. You guys probably didn't hear that. That was a really weird sound. I'm climbing up on the northeast side of a new area. I'm not sure what that sound was. But it's not a grizzly with 2 cubs. Anyways, so when you look at the woo factor, keep in mind a couple of things. 300, 400 years ago, for thousands of years, sailors used to think there were spirits under their boats. And those are the spirits that went down to Davy Jones' locker after they died. And why did they think that? Well, because when they looked over the ship at nighttime, they could see lights going underneath the water, kind of like plasma. Now, if you're a Maine man, did you guys hear that? Let's see if I run into anything. Anyways, what they're actually seeing is a form of bacteria that's in the water. And if any of you have kayaked on the coast, what you'll notice is there's somebody on a rock there looking at me. Pretty spooky, boys. I was just thinking, what the hell was that sound? Because I'm filming right now, so. Okay, false alarm. There's 2 people over on the ridge there trying to spook out some friends. Anyways, getting back to my story. If you've ever been kayaking on the coast and you've seen California sea lions, dolphins under your kayak at nighttime, certain times of the year, the bacteria makes it, as a fish or anything goes through the water, it reacts to the bacteria and it turns into like a plasma discharge. Then they looked at that as being, this is, hundreds of years ago, that it must be what I'm seeing it to be. But the drawback is, it wasn't. But they didn't have a contextual way to understand it. So my prediction is, when we finally get all the information, what we're dealing with in regards to Sasquatch, what we will find is it'll make total contextual sense. Just like every other animal we spiritualized. We thought it had superpowers. We just didn't understand how it operated. And I suspect Bigfoot's the same way. I just remember Dr. Bindernagel's talking about good quality evidence. Be cautious not to put the wrong interpretation on what you're seeing. Try not to be too anxious to taking footprints, pictures of footprints, or filming certain stuff, and then saying, this is Sasquatch. I don't post anything that doesn't look, and I don't tend to, like obvious that's Sasquatch. And I think that's why we appreciated Real, or at least coming across his site, was his ability to see things for what they were, try to be fair about it, used a nice phrase called, I don't know, which is a healthy way of looking at life. And kind of, that's kind of the perception you want. It's not going to help out anybody. You know, and you've met these people, as soon as you start talking about squatches, they look at you kind of funny. But even yesterday when I was up where the grizzly was, ran into these 2 hunters. Hunters are good resources. Show them your pictures. Ask them if they came across anything like that. Because they cover a lot of area, and there's a lot of them out there. But I totally missed those 3 little structures right by the road. And honestly, that one poor little spruce tree or pine tree that had all the log and the sticks attached to it, it's probably going, what the hell's going on? This is kind of crazy. Anyways, like I said, I'm not trying to blow anybody's bubble in regards to the spiritual stuff. Just be incredibly cautious. Your brain is wired to do it automatically. And one of the courses I teach, we use ultrasounds or sound to trigger emotional responses in people. And I'll ask the class, when you feel something, put up your hand as we turn up certain frequencies. And after they all put their hand up, I'll ask them, what is that feeling you feel? And they'll say fear. And that particular decimals we're using are decimals that the police do and the military do when they bombard a house with sound waves, because it puts you on edge. I wish things were magical. I wish things were super spiritual. But I do agree with Dr. Binder. I don't believe in Sasquatch. That's a faith statement. I definitely believe in God. It's a different realm, though. It's an intuitive realm. And a lot of us out here have been doing intuitive processing as we're out in the bush by ourselves. And that's okay. That's not what I'm talking about. But the idea, you have hundreds and hundreds of studies in controlled settings. Even Randy the Amazing, you're probably not aware of who he is, he's offered $1 million to anybody who can prove in any place psychic claims. Any type. And he's had that up for about 50 years. And no one's taken the $1 million check that he still has. And I get it. We want certain things to believe in certain things. The problem is because I believe in something and it becomes part of me. It's a truth I believe. But even me, I have to be cautious that because I believe in something, it doesn't mean it's factual. It's just my belief. It's my hypothesis. So when I go around and I look on this journey for Bigfoot around our region, yeah, I post all sorts of things, even things that might be embarrassing, where people will look at it like, please, that's just blah, blah, blah. But that's the fair process of doing it. Life is all about learning. I've already looked like a moron many a times in my life, and I'm sure most of you guys have too, so don't worry about it. Throw it out to the inner circle too. That's what I really appreciate about Rio inviting me onto that site, because you guys are kind of like my allies as well. I haven't been doing this that long, but watching that last post by Rio about that he pulled last year and then put it back on, I mean, that's exactly the same stuff I'm finding. Blue, just like bowerbirds, blue stuff on structures, and you know, mimicking stuff too. I don't know, it could be diversion maybe. Put human garbage around our sites, that way people will think it's human. I don't know if they think that much or that deep, but they certainly think differently. They're not like deer, they're not like moose, they're not like elk, they're not like bear, they're not like grizzly. They do seem to have a thing called self-awareness, which a few mammals or animals do. And again, self-awareness is the ability to know that I'm looking at me, not looking at a reflection of another creature like me, like parakeets in cages next to a little mirror. So there's got to be something in that. I do believe they cluster in groups. I call them pods more than I call them family structures. I don't know anything about them yet. My goal is to find out how they mate, how they court. Because I know there's got to be some form of a cultural experience there in regards to what they're all about. So again, all I'm doing is caution you. There's just way too many times we've spiritualized lots of stuff, and we thought it was true. Matter of fact, we thought it was true that the sun evolved around the earth for a long, long time. And the problem with that was we were wrong. And then you got one guy named Galileo who comes up and finds out that he is right and we are all wrong. The society or culture of the day can't buy it. So they not necessarily attack, but they certainly discredit. So don't try to prove Sasquatch to anybody. Doesn't matter. There's enough evidence out there already. Change your perspective. Just go looking. Go for the adventure. Go for the getting the hell crap scared out of you. Which I've had a few times with. And let's keep working together to try to figure out what the culture is. What do they do? How do they collect their food? And anyways, there's my Sunday Thanksgiving to all you Canadians out there today, by the way, because it's Thanksgiving Day. Ramble. See you guys.